Well, hey guys, it's Roy from Canoeing the Edge of the World, and I thought I'd do a video where I just did some commentary on some local and national alligator-related news stories here in Florida. And a lot of these are from local stations. This one's from Fox 13, which is a Fox-affiliated local station that is watched a lot here in Central Florida. And so many of these stories, people from around the nation and around the world probably won't hear of because they won't get on Fox, you know, the national Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or one of the big stations. But this is one, as an example, it's February 21st, 2020, and this one just came across the wire 2 days ago. In fact, I just saw it tonight. But it says, kayakers rescued from Florida River after alligator nearly flips boat. And it goes on just to talk about this group of kayakers that were out in an inflatable kayak in the Waxahachie River, and an alligator apparently impacted their kayak, and it didn't flip them, but it nearly did, and one of the kayaks got snagged on something and sunk, and two of the people were basically left on the shoreline, had to be rescued. So it's not anything too dramatic, but I wanted to mention here that I've done a lot of canoeing around the Waxahachie, and the St. John's in that area is known for having really big alligators, and a lot of alligators. There's only three tributaries to the St. John's: the Waxahachie, the Wekiva, and the Ocklawaha River. And the Waxahachie is right here in the upper St. John's River marsh, and it is full of big alligators. And I'm not a big fan of inflatable kayaks. I have one, and it's actually made for diving. It's a Cellulor dive yak that I've used in the ocean many times, but I would not want to take it into the freshwater marshes, swamps, and rivers around here. There's too many snakes and too many alligators. It has no real side to it. Something could slither right up. And there's a famous story from a few years ago that I actually feature in my Alligators Behaving Badly Episode 1 video, where a woman on an inflatable kayak was attacked by an alligator in the Everglades, and it tore a hole in the side of the kayak, and of course it sank, and she was stuck on a grass island for hours and wasn't rescued till after dark, and she was quite rattled by the time they finally found her. So the moral of the story here is don't use an inflatable kayak in Florida. All right, just as a quick addendum to that last article, this is the Orlando Weekly article on that incident that happened with the alligator and the kayak, the inflatable kayak, and the Waxahachie. And according to this article, the alligator did in fact attack the kayak, sink it, and leave the two people stranded on the shoreline. So I'm not sure which one is actually accurate. I just heard about this today, and it happened only 48 hours ago, so who knows what the exact story is. But the long and short of it is two kayakers were left stranded on the shoreline after a very close encounter with a large alligator. So I'm sitting here in Satellite Beach, Florida, waiting for Hurricane Dorian to hit us. And I turn on Fox News, and they've got this article entitled, "Florida Animal Park Promises Its Gators and Crocs Won't Escape During Hurricane Dorian." And it goes on to discuss how Gatorland in Orlando is taking great precautions to make sure that their roughly 2,000 alligators don't escape during the hurricane. Now, Gatorland is a top-notch organization. If you ever get to Central Florida, you should definitely go check them out. It's well worth the money. I promise you'll enjoy it. But something occurred to me when I read this. This is Florida. If all 2,000 of their alligators escaped into the wilds of Central Florida, it would not add 1% to the number of alligators we have roaming the wild in Central Florida. These aren't Bengal tigers or something. You wouldn't even notice. I mean, I know there's crocodiles too, but we have wild crocodiles in Florida. A lot of people don't know that, but Florida is the only place in the world where alligators and crocodiles live together in the wild. I mean, think about this. We have lakes in Florida with over 25,000 alligators in them. Okay, we have numerous lakes with over 10,000 alligators in them. So, you know, that's 25,000 alligators, over 10 times the number of alligators that could potentially escape here. And that's if every single one of their alligators, not a single one was left in the park when the storm went by. So I just, I think it's kind of funny. I doubt that occurred to many people who read the article, but if everyone got loose, you wouldn't even notice. So it's September 20th, 2019. I thought I would document this story that happened locally. I doubt it was reported on the national level. and there's probably not many people beyond Florida who heard about it. But what makes it very interesting to me is it happened right here at the Three Forks Marsh in the Upper St. Johns River Marsh, where I canoe quite a bit. So basically what happened, this is on Florida Today, and the article goes on basically just to detail how this guy was out alligator hunting with two friends in an airboat. And the guy who took them out was the only one who knew how to get back to the boat ramp, and he was the only one who knew how to operate an airboat. And sure enough, they hook an alligator, they bring it up to the side of the boat, a big alligator from, I saw different reports. One of the articles didn't say anything, another said 11 foot, another one said 8 to 10 feet. So the alligator got away, so they'll never know unless they find one with some of this guy's hand in it. But basically, they get it up to the side of the boat, and the boat captain reaches down, and the thing darn near bites off his hand. And it's the middle of the night. They're out in the middle of this giant Three Forks marsh, and he was the only one on the boat who knew how to get back, and he was the only one who knew how to operate an airboat. So they were like, Joe, we got a dilemma here, okay? We know you're critically wounded, but you're going to have to get back in that boat, in that seat, and you're going to have to pilot this boat back to the ramp, or we're all going to die out here. And so they put a tourniquet on the guy's hand. He was able to get him back to Three Forks. Now, just yesterday, I was out there canoeing, and a game warden came up I was moorhen hunting. He came up to check my license, and we started talking. And I asked him if he'd heard about that. He said, heard about it. I was one of the first guys on the scene that night. It was, it was like 2 in the morning. I said, oh, you were? How bad was it? He said, oh, the guy's hand was just dangling. It was mangled. He was in shock. And apparently, from what I had heard, the guy lost his hand, but the game warden said that they were able to reattach his hand. It wasn't completely severed. There was a big chunk of it missing, but he kept his hand, to make a long story short. So that's good news. But you got to be careful with alligators. They don't look like they're fast, especially the big ones. They look slow, but they are incredibly fast, and they can spin around in like a 180-degree U shape and bite you quicker than Whistling Dixie. And I'll tell you, getting your hand bit, even by a 6-foot alligator, is, a friend told me once, he said, now he was no expert, but he actually worked for the state and stuff, and he said, you know what a 6-foot alligator will do to your hand? He said, open your car hood and put your hand down on the frame of the car. Slam that car hood onto your hand as hard as you can, and then multiply that by about 10. And that's what just a 6-foot alligator's bite is like. And I was like, wow, okay, that would be a pretty bad wound. And he said, the large ones will cut your leg right off with one bite. So anyway, be careful. Well, here's a good one. Now, this happened like 6 years ago in 2014, but it's definitely noteworthy. And the title is Crocodile Attack Earns Florida Swimmers Dubious Distinction. Now, if you don't know, Florida has crocodiles. It has a lot of alligators, and crocodiles are here too in the southern part of the state, but they're in danger, and there's not many of them here. But these two people at a party decided to go swimming in a canal behind the party, and people apparently told them, hey, don't go swimming in that canal, it's full of crocodiles and alligators. Well, they jumped in the darkness and were immediately bitten by a 9-foot crocodile. And the interesting thing is crocodiles are so rare and so reclusive that you really have to go off into the Everglades or somewhere to see them. But there happened to be one in that canal, and they earned the distinction of being the only people in the United States to ever be documented as having been attacked by crocodiles. So I'll just pan the article here. If you want to read it, you can. But it's just, sometimes you almost have to invite getting bit. But these people went out in the middle of the night swimming and got bit by a crocodile. Well, no one likes to have their Thanksgiving dinner interrupted. Here's a story from the Tampa Bay Times, just from a few months ago on Thanksgiving. A family in Fort Myers is in the middle of their Thanksgiving dinner, and they hear a knocking at the door, and it's a 9-foot alligator that was slapping the door with its tail. Apparently it wanted some turkey too, but kind of a funny story that I doubt was widely reported. But alligators will turn up in your yard. People find them in their garages, under their cars. Keep an eye out when you're in Florida. You never know where you'll find an alligator. Well, here's an interesting one reported by WFLA, which is a local news station, showing a picture of a crocodile floating in a canal in Key Largo, Florida, on top of a pool noodle. So, you don't see that every day. Well, here's one you may have heard of because it was reported fairly widely on the news. In fact, this one's in USA Today. It happened 2 years ago up in northeast Florida at the St. Augustine Alligator Farm. And you can see the headline, Florida man accused of breaking into alligator farm is attacked by crocodile, leaves croc shoe behind. And I'll just read you the first paragraph. They have the whole thing on surveillance video. And if you want to watch the news reports and see more about this, I would recommend watching that. But the first paragraph reads, a man who allegedly broke into an alligator farm in Florida and jumped into a pool of crocodiles was found Tuesday morning bloody and crawling through a woman's yard, local authorities say. So anyway, the long and short of it is, I'll pan down through the article and you can read it if you want, but watch the coverage that was done on video if you want more details. But a 23-year-old man with a history of mental illness and drug use broke into the alligator farm and jumped into the crocodile pit. And he was, on video frolicking with the crocodiles until one attacked him and severely wounded him and ripped his croc shoe off. And they found him in his underwear crawling through some residential yard. But what kind of idiot do you have to be to do something like that? I mean, I had to include that because it's such a Florida story. Ah, yes, here's another good one from USA Today. This happened a couple of years ago also and got quite a bit of coverage in the news. Florida deputy kills fearless alligator who chased teen up tree. This happened at a place called Alexander Springs, which is a beautiful freshwater spring in Florida that is actually a very popular swimming area. And this 15-year-old girl was chased up a tree by a large alligator. And they have recordings of her mother's frantic 911 call saying, my daughter is hanging on a tree limb over Alexander Springs with a large alligator that won't let her down. And they dispatched a deputy who went out there, and the alligator, sure enough, wouldn't let the girl down, and it advanced upon him when he tried to help her, and so he shot and killed it. That's Florida. Well, here's one from the Miami Herald that I couldn't resist. Burger, fries, and a live gator. Florida customer tosses 3-foot reptile through drive-thru. So this 23-year-old guy pulls up to the drive-thru window of a Wendy's fast food restaurant and tosses a live 3-foot alligator through the window. I'm not sure if he was joking with them or if he was angry about something or if he knew the people. I don't really care, but I just had to include it because it screams Florida. Ah, and I would be remiss if I failed to include Florida woman sentenced after pulling gator from pants during traffic stop. So this one happened near Punta Gorda, and a police officer pulled over a couple and discovered they had over 400 striped turtles that they illegally collected, apparently. And when he asked if they had anything else, the woman pulls a foot-long alligator out of her yoga pants. So, all I can say is Florida. So as long as you stay out of fresh water in Florida, you'll be safe from the threat of alligators, right? Wrong. Here's an Orlando Sentinel article. Alligator emerges from the surf on Florida beach, popular with spring breakers. Now, this is actually not that uncommon. I also found an article of one that came ashore right amongst some swimmers in southeast Florida. And there's several articles on the internet from Georgia paper, the coast of Georgia and the Carolinas, where alligators have come ashore there. So apparently it's not that uncommon. Now this was over in the Panhandle, close to Panama City, but it happens. And in fact, when I was a kid, when I was about 9 or 10 years old, my family was camping at Talbot Island State Park in northeast Florida. And my father and I were down fishing in the surf, and it was evening time. We were getting ready to go back, walk across the dunes to the campsite. And he calls me over and he says, "What do you see right there?" And there was some very small shore break, maybe a foot high, lapping at the sand. And just past that, I mean, you could have tossed a rock underhand and hit this thing. There is a big alligator, and it is just paralleling the beach, swimming, right there offshore. So when we went back to the campsite, my dad said, we better tell them at the office about this. So we went and talked to the park ranger, and he said, oh yeah, we see them out there from time to time. They come out of the St. Johns River, and they'll stay in the ocean for like 2 or 3 days, and they go back. And he said they even see them 8, 9 miles offshore. And I couldn't believe that. I was like, wow. So alligators definitely go out into the ocean. And of course, what Florida man worth his weight in salt hasn't gone into a convenience store carrying an alligator? Here's a story where a guy goes into a convenience store carrying around like a live alligator. There he is. You can watch the video online. He's just carrying around this alligator, chasing people with it. And I think he was just having fun. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone. But he got arrested. But I'll tell you, I had a friend I served in the Marines with who used to do this too. He lives in Florida, and he did this a few times. I never saw it, but I believe him. They would catch some alligator out fishing, and he would take it to the convenience store like midnight and let the people pet it and stuff. And he said, man, they gave me a free case of beer. But this guy was crazy. He and I went to a convenience store once at about 1 in the morning. There's 5 or 6 people in there and 2 black girls working the counter. And he's a big, scary-looking guy. And he stood right there in front of everyone and yells, "Nobody move!" And everyone just froze. And I was like, what the heck? And then he lifts his hand up to his face and goes, I think I just lost my contact lens. Everybody burst out laughing. But anyway, that's Florida. Alright, and I'll finish this video with this one right here from Chicago, Illinois. And though it didn't happen in Florida, they did have to hire a trapper from Florida and fly him up there, pay all his expenses to catch this little 4-foot alligator swimming around in a tiny city park in Chicago. And the funny thing is they spent $33,600 to catch this little alligator someone released in this lake. You know what it cost to catch an alligator? The price of a rod and reel, some braided fishing line, and a treble hook, all right? And they spent $33,600. For $33,600, I will catch you a Yeti. I'll catch you a Sasquatch for $33,600. But anyway, there are so many of these videos online. I'll probably have to do another one of these. It's just hilarious. So thanks for watching.